100% sure we are live.
I am live.
Are you sure?
I've just got the flag come up. Yeah.
You definitely are. You definitely are.
Let me see if you are.
I think
we're both live. Although, in fairness, if you tuned in now and looked at the pair of us, you could be forgiven for thinking we weren't alive.
We weren't alive. Yeah, exactly. That's a common mistake that's made. So this is it. This is that album. I don't know if anyone's with us. We might be speaking into a little echo chamber of just the two of us. If so, that's fine.
It's best if that's the case. I mean, having watched a few of these back, there's not much here. You can move along, everybody. You can move along.
If anyone chooses to join, there might be the odd sort of random person walking past the shop window who goes, "Oh, I'll nip in here and have a little look." This is that album. Our weekly. It is weekly, isn't it?
It is weekly.
We've got one. We've got one live and kicking. We've got Andrew Slesser.
Hello, Andrew. Oh, and Mrs. Eric.
Yeah, she's turned up because this is a big deal for her. So yeah, very excited for this one. One of my blah blah blah. Yeah, we've got from Beth there. She's already said she already went. You just heard a little across Aberdeenshire. You just had a little yippee from Beth. So this is our weekly album chat. For those who don't know, who might be new. Adam and I, about over a year ago. How many shows now?
This is show number 47, I think.
Crikey. We used to sit and hi Barry, welcome everyone. We used to sit on Slack and we'd go, listen to this. There's a YouTube clip. Watch the guitar here. Listen to the drums and bass here. What do you think? Oh, I don't like that. I do like that. And we thought, wouldn't this be an interesting little show if we did it? And it's been a lovely year plus, hasn't it?
It's been fantastic. It's been a real learning journey, both highs and lows, hasn't it?
Highs and lows. We've had so the way we work it is every alternate week. Well, every week one of us suggests, the other one suggests an album we go away and do a deep dive into, and it might be an album that person's never heard. Hello from Dublin. I wonder who that is. You're coming up as LinkedIn user. Let us know who you are. We'd love to.
Probably Helen.
Right. Perfect. One of us suggests an album for the other one to go away and get into, but properly into, right? Properly into
a deep dive, a proper listened, almost to the exclusion of everything else.
Yes, absolutely. And we've had some revelations, albums that we thought we both went, oh yeah, that'll be that. Yeah, I know that album. We've come back and gone, it was fabulous. It was awesome. Some we've gone away and listened to and come back and gone, yeah,
it's all right.
Yeah, it was all right. Some one of us has hated, one of us has loved, the other one hated, the other one loved. We've done the classics, we've done off-piste, we've done pop, rock, a bit of jazz, folk. We've even done, dare I say it, War of the Worlds.
Yeah, which you particularly liked, I seem to remember.
Yeah, absolutely. So last week, you had suggested that we did, it was Terence Trent D'Arby, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And we both really enjoyed that.
It was beautiful, wasn't it?
Both really enjoyed that. So the question is, I recommended last week at the end, we've got someone from Illinois. Howdy. Hello, Melissa.
Howdy.
Lovely to have you with us. Hope you're a big Muse fan, or maybe just learning something. So I recommended that we go away and invest a solid week dissecting and really understanding and researching Black Holes and Revelations by Muse. So after a week with Black Holes and Revelations, and the thing that both worried and excited me was that you said I'm not familiar with Muse at all.
Yeah, I was obviously, I had heard the name, I was aware of them, but I certainly hadn't listened to, if I had listened to anything of theirs, it was by accident on the radio, not by design.
So the question is this a starlight or a supermassive black hole?
Oh, I see what you did there.
You see what I did?
Yeah, I see what you did there.
You see what I did.
So as part of the listening process, and one of the things that I've learned about myself is not to make snap decisions about things. So as part of the listening process, I've done some research as well. And the first thing, and I emailed it to you actually, Eric. The first thing was I saw the following. Muse epitomizes pompous stadium rock in a technology-numbed post-Radiohead era. Radiohead, I thought this was going to be good. Their tracks come loaded with the burbling synth arpeggios and other futuristic effects intended to announce the band's modernity. But the music is firmly old school at heart, proggy hard rock that forgoes any pretensions to restraint. What Muse lack in chop house showmanship on the prog side of the equation, they attempt to make up for in volume. Their songs use full stacked guitars and thunderous drums to evoke God's footsteps. It's the kind of deep-fried, flash-frozen crud that can be ridiculously fun to listen to. So I thought to myself, oh yes, I can see how this is going. So
you read that review
before I'd listened to anything. Yep.
Right. So you started from a pretty low base.
Yeah, indeed.
So what were your own? I mean, that's just some half-wit journalist, right? Who clearly. So what were your own musings?
I see what you did there as well. Yeah. So I put it on, and within the first half of the first track, I was sold, mate. An absolute moon landing. Just magnificent. Utterly magnificent.
This is the dance. This is the dance, people. This is the dance.
It is the dance. It was just joyous. Absolutely joyous. And the more I listened, the further into it I got. The more I thought there were layers of complexity. Matt Bellamy is not a songwriter. He is a composer.
Yes.
It is just beautiful. Beautiful.
It doesn't get much better than this. Go away and listen to the album. That's the end of the show.
Yeah. So I'm glad that I haven't alienated everyone that's listening, exactly. as I often do when I criticize.
As we both often do. I mean, we had your infamous OK Computer moment where I joined, going, I can't wait. It's my favorite album, top 3 albums of all time, and you were like, I hated every minute of this week. And
it was fingernails on a blackboard. It was fingernails on a blackboard.
And you were so thrilled to do War of the Worlds, and I just couldn't get it, and that was a horrible day. Oh yeah, I'm a dyed in the wool fan. I have the whole back catalogue. I wrestled with which one to go for. The Resistance? Should I go for the first album? I didn't know, but I thought this is a decent starting point because this is a slightly different Muse. Sarah and I went to see the tour of this album and just stood there. You know, normally we're quite sort of buoyant at concerts. We just stood there agog because he's not only a composer, he's a showman, he's an entertainer. So I'm super thrilled because we're going to have a romp through this, and this is what they are. They're a romp band. They are. I mean, Matthew Bellamy is hilarious to listen to. Oh wow, fantastic, Russell, great, and thank you, Graham, as well. They don't take themselves too seriously, but they do it seriously, right? Nice. So this is the 4th studio album by English rock band Muse, released on the 3rd of July 2006.
Hold on a second, 2006.
2006, you say?
There was a whale in the River Thames in 2006.
There was
a whale.
A whale?
A whale.
A whale.
Whale, as you say, north of the border.
A whale.
There was a demonstration outside the Danish embassy about a cartoon of Muhammad. The biggest ever cash robbery, the Security House robbery, £53 million. The Mori poll showed the Conservatives have a 36-point lead this week in 2006.
Wow.
How things have changed, given that earlier this week, Liz Truss was only slightly less unpopular than Vladimir Putin, oddly. There's a European heatwave. Casino Royale was launched. Alexander Litvinenko was poisoned with polonium-210. The God Delusion was published, as was Discworld. And there was the infamous Yo Blair greeting from George Bush.
Yo Blair.
Yo Blair. And John Profumo, Fred Truman, and Syd Barrett all died this year.
Oh, crikey. All whilst Muse were preparing to launch this massive thing. So this 4th album, Black Holes and Revelations, tells the tale of a world on the brink. Every song coming from a different perspective, but they're all tied together with some uncertainty. Feelings have been let down by a system that was supposed to have had your back are held up like a placard. This is 45 minutes, 28 seconds of pure theatre, musical genius, massive histrionics and fun.
Isn't this? I mean, one of the things that I really drew from this album is this is the stadium rock equivalent of Bob Dylan. These are some pretty serious themes about welfare and state and government control and politics and all of this stuff. I mean, this is not vacuous little type music, is it? This is some heavy duty themes here.
Yeah, I mean, and he's actually calling to action. This isn't just and your government are letting you down. I mean, he's like he's calling for assassins and burn you will burn for your crimes against the earth. Pretty heavy. It's not Baltimore this week, Mark, but we are going to do Baltimore at some point. I promise. I promise. So this is it's got sci-fi anthems in there. It's got anti-government stuff. It's got, I mean, Matthew Bellamy through his songwriting has been warning us for years. You only have to listen to The Resistance by them, where they go even deeper. Wonderful band, heavily over the top. Matthew Bellamy says, no one has more fun in the studio than us because we do not take ourselves seriously. We just want to entertain. We want to go out there. We want to have a laugh, and we want the audience to be sort of like, can they throw more layers of stuff into this? We don't understand subtlety. We just think if people have paid all that money for a ticket, we are going to blow their pants off, and that's what we want them to do.
Yeah.
And
I get it, absolutely get it.
Yeah, and if you've watched any of the YouTube clips, he's sitting with a Fender in the studio, goes to do a solo and does the solo, and it's ridiculously over the top and theatrical, and the band are laughing their heads off, and so is he. And he's like, how can I make it even more over the top? They are incredible. This album was met with really positive reviews from the critics.
I'm the older, more handsome, more intelligent, more charming one. Just saying.
Indeed, and I'm the opposite of all of that. Yeah, absolutely. It was placed at number 34 in a public vote conducted by Q Magazine as the best albums of all time in February 2008. It spawned a number of singles that did really, really well. They even were nominated for a Kerrang Award for some of this, because this band, as well as you're going to hear sort of like disco-inspired stuff here, but this band also love metal and they love classical music. I don't believe for a second you haven't noticed that there's classical structure to some of the stuff that they do. Mm. But let's take classical structure and do a little tribute to Depeche Mode and a bit of metal. A very, 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 very complex band. I mean, if you and I were sitting down to do a tribute to Enjoy the Silence, which they've done on this, and even said, we love Enjoy the Silence and we wanted our version of it, so we did it. But it's completely different. If you and I were to sit down and say, let's do, we both love Enjoy the Silence, let's do it. It wouldn't sound anything like Muse.
No, it would sound like a karaoke cover, I suspect, wouldn't it?
Very, very much so, absolutely. So they did a lot of the studio rehearsing for this at Studio Miraval in an old chateau in the south of France. The band wanted to be free from distractions so that they could concentrate and spend time being surrounded by different musical influences. But they had trouble getting to land on this because they found as if that they were just trying to do another Muse album, and they decided that it was they had to do something different. They completed the work at New York City and Avatar Studios and Electric Lady Studios and a studio in Italy. Chris Wolstenholme said writing and recording was more relaxed on previous albums once we got into the groove because we didn't have a deadline. The producer Costy wanted to capture Bellamy's personality as a guitarist, and it's a good thing to note, as well as on previous albums we heard him. He's produced some of the finest riffs that we've heard coming out of British rock bands in the last 30 years. But a lot of the sounds that we're hearing on this, he's pulled back raucous metal guitar, and he's actually playing synthesized versions of other instruments on his guitar, because he's quite a talented chap with the old fingers, as you've probably noticed. Shall we pile in, or have you got any other observations you'd like to share?
This first track, I was listening. You start it up, and I thought it's quite symphonic in terms of how it begins and builds, and I put like a sort of electronic Mahler. It's proper serious stuff. An interesting use of both augmented and diminished intervals in the melody and the really.
I was thinking.
I don't doubt it for a moment. Something else, oddly, very much a War of the World vibes going on at 2 minutes 40 on this particular track.
Don't know what you're talking about.
Should we go outside, sir? Is this the aliens coming?
Pause it there for a second.
Yep.
Corrupt, you corrupt, bring corruption to all that you touch. Hold, you behold, and beholden for all that you've done. And cast a spell on the country you run. Written in 2022.
Do you think this is playing in the car as Liz, or playing in the spare bedroom while Liz is packing her boxes?
I think he's probably playing in Keir Starmer's house.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
You will risk all their lives and their souls and burn. You will burn in hell. Yeah, you'll burn in hell. You'll burn in hell. Yeah, you'll burn in hell for your sins.
Our freedom's consuming itself.
Yeah,
He doesn't mess about. Just say what you're
he
thinking.
doesn't, and it's almost a bit of a shame that the lyrics are so challenging.
Yeah.
Because you find yourself enjoying it, and actually you shouldn't really be enjoying it, should you? You should be
That's
out in
right.
the streets burning things.
Yeah, we shouldn't be we should be out in the streets burning things, turning cars over. Yeah, this isn't. We shouldn't be sitting tapping our feet to this. And I think it's now that he picks up the axe. Yeah, Sarah, if you're listening, did we see them in Aberdeen or Glasgow? I can't remember. One of the things I love about them is they don't shy away from their influence. He's quite happy to talk about it.
Yeah, obviously this quite heavily influenced by War of the Worlds. All we're waiting for is a little bit of "No, Nathaniel, oh no, Nathaniel."
David Essex cowering in a bunker. We saw them in Aberdeen. Oh my goodness. Did you know that Bellamy was all nearly killed by a scuba diving instructor who filled his tank only half full in an effort to get with his girlfriend?
Wow.
I've seen a lot of live bands, but I actually felt watching Muse that I was actually standing. The only thing that was missing from the crowd was us all standing in a line with a little light on our foreheads going, yes, this is the way. In unison. I felt as if we were all in a club cult and we were all saying, yes, absolutely. So the album opens with this intense synth intro. The guitars come in and then they leave us. It's quite a thumping start. It sets the tone for an album. quite a serious stuff. I mean, well, you don't get much more serious. It's a Philip Glass inspired string arpeggios and all sorts of histrionics and drama about setting fire to the world and resisting this horrific. Is it definitely the government? Yeah.
I think through the lens of today, yes. But I think with so many of these things, there's a degree of abstraction, isn't there, in the words, which means that it can fit a number of different molds.
Yeah.
But certainly today, it feels like it's speaking to the political climate, doesn't it?
Yeah, it kind of fits. Track 2 opens in a much lighter vein, much more poppy dancey. What's your thoughts on track 2?
Lovely rock and roll bit, lovely, proper old school rock and roll. Has a definite Keane vibe to the vocal. No worse because of that, because we love Keane.
I think I've thought about this before, and I think they're so vastly different in the way that they perform music. I think if he had a deeper voice, that would never be mentioned. It's mentioned quite a lot. I think that's the only thing for me, is the fact that he's got a high voice. They're so different in the way that they I've read loads of reviews this week saying the Keane-esque soldiers poem, and I'm like, yeah, but Keane never did music like that.
No, okay.
We'll take that. This is track number 2, Starlight. Get your dancing trousers on. The best Eurovision song that we didn't enter.
You must acknowledge that there's the piano and the vocal soaring over the top, which is exactly Keane-like.
But I don't think they're ripping. I don't think they're.
No, I don't think for a moment they are. Completely different, but similar.
Piano with his voice, and you're probably going to get, because they're both quite high and
yeah.
All the souls that would die just to feel alive. I'll never let you go if you promise not to fade away. Never fade away. Our hopes and expectations, black holes and
The Cult.
relations, and our hopes and expectations.
He said on record that this, the whole black holes and revelations, and I want to hold you in my arms, was him struggling with the songwriting process.
Clearly.
Yeah. Clearly. So that's track 2, Starlight, which is entirely lighter, but is talking about our hopes and expectations, black holes and revelations. Yeah, I guess he said that this was all about black holes of inspiration and wanting to hold on to the art of songwriting and sometimes drawing a blank. And then there's track 3, where I have down here, if you're going to channel Prince and NXS, many of the, I hate this term when it comes to music, but many people have written about the fact that this is sexy Muse. Yeah, this is sexy Muse. The next one, Supermassive Black Hole.
Okay, so with this, that it's the 80s. You are going to go. You're going to be marooned on a desert island. You've got one cassette and a cassette player, and you're making your mixtape to go.
Yep.
You put Amelia on the mixtape.
Yep.
Obviously.
Yep.
You put Bed Shaped. You maybe after last week put Sign Your Name Across My Heart.
Yep.
You put If You Tolerate This. You put Black Dog. You put Freedom 90. You put Go Your Own Way. You put Purple Haze. Picking songs that we loved throughout series of this one goes on there as well. This is one of the best tracks I have ever heard in my entire life. This is just, I found myself, and this meant that I didn't spend as much time listening to the latter half of the album, because when I got in the car and this track came out, I kept playing it again and then played again.
Really?
Because I found this just so involving.
It's fantastic. This is them enjoying themselves. This is them. What's he saying? Fun fact. What was that? Celine Dion had to change the name of her Vegas tour after Muse refused an offer of £32,500 from a managing team to call it Muse. Wow. My goodness. I suppose if you've got 40 million quid in the bank like Matthew, 32.5 grand's.
It's not a big deal, really, is it?
Not a big deal. Not a big deal. Let's do it. Let's get into it. Let's start. Let's see Adam shake his booty to Supermassive Black Hole.
Bassline. Oh my god, this bassline is just
It's just
incredible.
Incredible.
It's perfect.
Yes.
Very ELO-y harmonies there.
Oh, 100%.
Just
100%.
Perfect pitching of the two separate voices.
That bass. Yeah, imagine. Yeah. I'm gonna do Supermassive Black Hole by Muse. Band at the top of their game right there.
Yeah, and I think that we have to have a little bit of a comment about the quality of playing. Just they are so tight. They are so kind of, as you said, on point, just perfect. Honestly, this was the track. At the beginning, I switched it on and I just went, yeah, this is all right. I could get into it. I could listen to this, and some of the things that you've said, the White Stripes, you'll like that. The Raconteurs, you'll like that. You were right. And this, at this point, I just went, holy moly, this is something else.
Watching them live is quite incredible if you see some of the YouTube clips, because they're so busy but manage to pull it off. They are fabulous live, whether in Jules Holland, whether in a small venue, a live lounge, or at Wembley with 80,000 people. Matthew, I don't know if you picked this up, but Matthew works with Manson Guitars, and they've designed a range of guitars for him to his specs.
Yes, so somebody in the comments said that.
Yeah, so he went to them and said, "I'd like."
Said it all.
It could have been whoever it was. Please let us know. We'd love to give you credit for that. So he's designed this series of guitars that have got, for want of a better word, iPads on behind the fretboard. or behind, just behind off the strings, so he can modulate sound. Adam's joy for this album. Yeah, yeah,
Almost.
almost. So you'll see him often playing a chord or playing with his fingers and actually manipulating this coloured keypad on his guitar, which is quite incredible. And as Mark Cowison pointed out, these guitars are not inexpensive, and he holds the world record for the most trashed on a tour, 140. 140 of them he just smashes to pieces. And you can buy them on eBay.
Yeah, you see, I find that incredibly
Disturbing.
Yeah, I do. I find it very sad when people do things like that.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Like books, people that fold over the corners of books or break the spine and fold them back on themselves. It makes my skin crawl.
I mean, this is multiple thousands of pounds.
And it's not like it's actually got any talent anyway, is it? Let's be honest.
Then we're into track 4, Map of the Problématique.
Right. Didn't you think it was really odd, sounds negative, but really unusual that the keyboard and the rhythm at the beginning are completely disconnected from each other?
Absolutely.
How difficult, like Led Zeppelin, Black Dog, how difficult to actually find everybody coming in on time when you've got two completely different things going on like that.
Absolutely mind-boggling how they do it, and they pull it off with such aplomb. This was a tip of the cap to Depeche Mode, which they all love. So they're mixing together 80s synth pop with metal, rock, classical, the whole lot. This is Map of the Problématique. One that's quite appropriate for these days. It certainly would. Like to be playing drums on this.
There's a couple of tracks where the drumming, you just go, what?
What? Sorry, what? I'm sorry, what? Yeah. Plug-in Baby is getting requested at the Kidney Disco. I mean, this is in epic territory. Epic piece of music. It's epic, right? It's epic.
Yeah. But this is an album where there are lots of times you could say that about tracks.
Yeah, absolutely. Perhaps not for the bigness reasons, but perhaps with the next song, which is very unusual. Allegedly, Bellamy does a lot of this kind of stuff in the studio, but it's the first time they decided to put it into an album. So the next one's Soldier's Poem. It was written for Absolution originally, but rewritten for Black Holes with new lyrics, and an arrangement inspired by Can't Help Falling in Love by Elvis Presley. Drummer Dominic Howard said the band had planned to record it with a massive epic approach, like what they do, but decided Matthew's version, just playing it in the studio, was worth going with.
I was expecting this to be REM.
Wise men say. Really sad lyrics. Desperate.
Let's lose ourselves, 'cause there's no one left for us to blame. It's a shame we're all dying, and you think you deserve your freedom. How could you send a soul far away from?
There's only one band you can think of with those harmonies. Very Queen-like, right?
Yeah, although there were a couple later on that I actually identified as being Queen. For this one, I thought it was a very REM start, and it sounded like a typical kind of croony Elvis 1960s, 50s rock and roll type slow ballad. I actually didn't really warm to this one particularly.
Right.
You know,
fine. I
if
understand it.
if I was going to pick a weak track from the album, for me it would be this one.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
There's no justice
Scaramouche.
There's no justice in the world.
Kind of barbershop quartet, really. going on
Absolutely.
there.
Big time. Big time. The next track goes back to Ticks and Leeches by Tool. Is the real drum track in my... Yeah, absolutely. My goodness. The next track, Invincible, is another biggie, another epic.
So this I thought it had little shades of Dead Can Dance
Mm-hmm.
at the beginning, and actually it reminded me, although it's certainly not a copy of, it reminded me a bit of Jeff Buckley once it got going.
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean. Here we are. Here's Invincible.
Chance to turn things around.
starts to build. It's quite sort of minimalistic right now. If you are a Muse fan or you've been intrigued by what we've been listening to today, type into YouTube Invincible Live Wembley and watch what happens when they get to this part. Now, any musician that's about to start a solo, any musician, from when I had a very early and light touch into playing live music, but when I knew when it came up to my solo, because I used to play in jazz bands with trombones, there would be that little moment of build up where you're like, I am up next. The complexity of his finger work in this little solo, in this build up, he just turns round, he's singing away, he turns round and he just pulls this off like it's having a sandwich. Actually, he does it better live than he does on the album, because this track's about to kick off. That's such a Muse sound on that bass.
Yeah, he's not too bad a player, is he?
He's all right. He can pull off the odd bits and pieces. He gives us a bit of a flash into an older sound to Muse in the earlier albums, when they sort of plug-in baby kind of stuff. When they start Assassin, which some might say was inspired by the noise rock band Lightning Bolt or System of a Down. This track was originally recorded with a much bigger piano break before Muse trimmed it for the album. This is Assassin.
Drum break at 30 seconds in is just, even John Bonham would be struggling to play this.
Wow. Let's have a listen. Think this track was put in for the old Muse fans to go, it's okay, we've not turned it into a disco band, we're still here. Imagine what it must feel like to perform all of these tracks and come off stage. You must be exhausted. But
absolutely flying. Just it's so immersive, isn't it?
Absolutely. Talking about immersive, what notes did you have for Exopolitics?
I thought that the way that he slides from note to note. So he's a singer that can sing in tune, and it does a lot of that during this track, which I thought is really interesting because he didn't do that anywhere else on the album, and it's not something that people often do. So I've said, really unusual the way Slice from Note to Note. I don't think I've heard this before. Certainly not like this.
Oh, crikey. Let's have a listen. Exopolitics, track number 8. I find it very difficult, and in fact, I decided not to pick a favorite song from this album. I decided
this is up there amongst the. It is an album of high after high after high, though, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very little filler, lots of killer, as they say. We're into the fast-strummed acoustic start. The album takes a little deviation, a very bright start in this next track.
Well, I thought this was going to be a really sparse sort of track. You know, the first, and it is for the first 40 seconds, and then all of a sudden, bang!
Kick the door in.
Yeah, but what a lovely counterpoint between the bass line and the vocal when it gets going.
Oh,
just
my goodness.
Absolutely stunning. And that's this. It's this composition rather than songwriting. You know, he's obviously conceived this in a symphonic kind of way.
Oh, yeah.
Where the voice, although the voice is delivering lyrics that matter, it still kind of feels like he's treating the voice as an instrument in this mix of things that he's doing. Very, very sophisticated.
And who would have thought that on a Muse album you'd hear almost mariachi style, Spanish Mexican style trumpet towards the end? This is City of Delusion. Sarah's a bit of a Strictly fan and applies a dance to each song. I think this could be a samba, maybe a salsa. There was Peter. Love Peter Larkin. Good to see you here. for the subtle start.
Yeah,
Kitchen sink,
absolutely.
everything, washing machine, everything's now in.
You will not rest or settle for less until you guzzle and squander what's left. Do not deny that you live and let
You know, they as a bit of a piss take, they had applied to write a Bond theme, and it never got in, so they released the song anyway. And I'll send it to you. I can't remember the name of the track. Does anyone know the name of the Bond theme that never became a Bond theme? It's actually got in it. And I think Adele was chosen or something like that. I can't remember, but they were like, "Damn, we really wanted a Bond theme. That would have been so cool."
It would have been cool, yeah.
But it is just so over the top. It's incredible. The next track is Hoodoo.
So you said about the last track, it finishes with a kind of mariachi band type trumpet. My comment about this was hacienda rock.
Yeah.
It's got that definite kind of Mexican feel to it. Guitar and vocal, then strings, then piano. But despite all of that complexity, I think that this track, I mean, not like the other themes aren't kind of quite heavy. This track sounds quite ominous.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. This is Hoodoo, track 10. It's almost like because the last track that we're going to talk about is kind of spaghetti western. It's almost like they're taking us into Mexico easily. I didn't catch your name, stranger. I didn't throw it.
regress into a dream. We will hide
Badges? I don't need no stinking badges.
reality.
We don't want the man with the scar. We want the man who give him the scar.
They've never been ones for the theatrical, really, have they?
No, very, very subtle and
Very subtle, minimalist,
modest.
modest. And nothing sums up that subtlety and modesty more than the ridiculously fun last track, inspired by surf rock. And I think I know what you're going to say.
So, last track, haven't we missed one?
Knights of Sidonia.
Isn't Glorious the last track?
No, that's a bonus track. I'm not going to play that because that's a little bonus one. Oh, I can do if you want, if we've got time.
Okay, yeah. So this, this was like a melting pot of different ideas, wasn't it? So there's a bit of Shadows, a bit of War of the Worlds that I know you love, a bit of Thunderbirds,
Yeah.
and then 3 and a bit minutes in, a bit of Queen with the harmonies and stuff. And I, as I was watching this, I thought to myself, this is like the theme song or the incidental music to a space movie.
So there's a fact about Mr. Bellamy. His father, George Bellamy. Do you know this?
Is he the one that was modeling likeness? Oh, David Bellamy.
No, it's David Bellamy. Yes,
Is he one of the ones that if I said you had a beautiful body, would you hold it? Is that
George Bellamy, Matthew Bellamy's father, played with a band called the Tornadoes.
right?
the Tornadoes produced a song which was a big hit in 1962, and Knights of Sidonia is a tribute to that song. It's a very famous song. It's called Telstar. So that's where you get this do 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 do.
Yes, of course. That explains it. It's all clear now.
Telstar.
Yeah.
Telstar. It's a tribute to his dad's single. George was with the band. He was a guitar player and multi-instrumentalist. And that sound they developed this is a little tribute to Telstar. But so he says, I'm going to sit down and write a tribute to my father's single Telstar, and they come up with this. I don't know if you watched the video as well. The video is so good with it. So good. Spaghetti Western with aliens. Oh yeah, bonkers. Don't be down the front. Hilariously over the top, ridiculous,
beautiful. But as you were playing that, I was just thinking to myself, this has been such a joyous week listening to this album. It's just
I'm so pleased.
So am I, because there's always that kind of like, Eric's my mate, he really loves this. I can't just basically rock up and say, well, it's all crap. But it was just wonderful, absolutely wonderful.
Fabulous. I'm chuffed to bits. I was worried that you were going to fall down they're just like a Ponce over-the-top theatrical Radiohead, because they're not.
No. There's a real depth of complexity and talent going on here.
Oh my goodness.
I felt was completely... and Radiohead, I'm being a bit... they've written some good songs, so I'm being a bit rude and I'm deliberately kind of ripping them to bits. But fundamentally, this guy is not a songwriter. Like I said, he's a composer. It's just orders of magnitude different.
Yeah, by time. Sounds like a rocked up version of Rawhide. Here we go. I'm heading up to here.
No one's gonna take me alive. The time has come to make things right. You and I must fight for our rights. You and I must fight to survive.
Now they must have said in the studio, we need a Bohemian Rhapsody moment. We need the bit where everyone goes.
Yeah. Just fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Wayne's World in the car. some pieces of music that actually affect my muscular skeletal system, and particularly my face. Every time I hear this track, they play it live on Jules Holland, like it's nothing, and it's just sublime and epic. And my face goes like this all the time because it gets inside me. Doctor Who's back. So that is the official ending of the album, but these days, when you get it digitally, you get a little bonus track, which I didn't bother including a review for, but you want me to, I think.
Well, I was just going to say that this was really interesting because I'm a big fan of, he's dead now, a British composer called David Bedford.
Right.
And he recorded on the Tubular Bells label. And he was, I think, my favourite modern avant-garde composer ever. So up there beyond Schoenberg and Stravinsky and Webern and Philip Glass and Hindemith and all of those people. And I remember I once went to see one of his pieces performed at the Proms, and there was this wonderful, wonderful part where the choir was singing, and they were all standing together, and then they all kind of slid onto a single note, and then the choir broke into two smaller choirs, and then they opened back out into a much bigger sound because it just like it stuck with me. But he wrote it. There's an album of his called Star Clusters, Nebulae, and Places in Devon, which I think is just the most magnificent piece of classical stroke electronic kind of intersection. And when I listened to this track, I thought, oh my God, that's such a wonderful tribute to that style of composing. Just beautiful. Yeah, just what can I say? What can I say? You know, if somebody says to you top 10 albums, it's really difficult, isn't it? Because you get down to like your top 50, and then everyone you put in knocks one out that's important to you. Yeah. But you know, in my record bag that I'm taking onto the spaceship, which has got room for 50 or 100 albums, this would definitely be on there. Just outstanding, absolutely outstanding.
Wow, I am absolutely thrilled. And just for a bit of fun, we don't normally do this. We've run way over time, but I don't think anyone's going to kill us for it. I don't think the producers or the owners of the show. Oh, that's us.
Yeah, no, so we're okay.
We're all right. We're all right. This is
overrun a little bit, Eric.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. This was their Bond theme.
Now, this is written by a man who really understands composing because it is so John Barry.
Oh yeah, ridiculous.
It's just outstanding, and picked up so many threads from.
Oh my! Oh yeah, absolutely. Let's just have a few seconds of this. Listen to the Bond theme in the background.
Policies have risen up and overcome the brave. Greatness dies, unsung and lost, invisible to history. Embedded spies, brainwashing our children to be mean.
What's really interesting about this is that the themes that he's picked up are all from the great Bond theme. So Diamonds Are Forever, You Only Live Twice, Goldfinger, all of those ones from our youth, the great songs with the great artists. Because most recently, let's be honest, they've all been a bit shit, really, haven't they?
They have, yeah, absolutely. But in true style, I think they're like, oh, I can imagine the producers like, this is quite good. They haven't thrown the kitchen sink at it. Just a bit cheeky. That was just an extra one thrown in for a good.
No, that was lovely. Thank you.
So I'm thrilled that went down well, and I'm thrilled that that's something that's had that much of an impact on you that it's going to stay with you. And
very much so.
And please go back and listen to their other stuff and their stuff that they've produced since. You'll love it. The Resistance, Jesus, my goodness, just right up your alley. And I'm sure, I'm thinking that that this little man and this motley crew will not be sitting around idly during all of this nonsense that's going on in the world. I'm sure we are due another Muse epic.
I hope so. I have thoroughly loved this. Now, if I've understood correctly, we're doing a show next week, but then we're not the next 2 weeks because you're prepping for your TED Talk. Congratulations.
Yes, I am. I'm going to take some time out to stand here and practice and make sure that I'm ready. So if that's okay, but definitely a show next week. Yeah, without a doubt.
Okay. So I've been giving a lot of thought to this and I've done a bit of soul searching.
Right.
And you will be shocked at what I'm going to suggest.
Sunita.
No, even more. If you were going to pick an album that to show that I'm trying to be more open in my thinking, an album that lots of people rate, that I have sworn blind that I think is loathsome, what album might I suggest?
I know what it is.
Go on.
In fact, I think I know the album.
Go on.
I think it's What's the Story, Morning Glory by Oasis.
What's the Story, Morning Glory? Well done, Eric. So I would like to review that next week because I remember when the album came out and I remember being very impressed by some elements of it. And
you were kind of supposed to like it, weren't you? You were supposed
I was supposed to like it. And the guy that I worked for at the time was a big muso, spent a load of money on records and hi-fi and was really into his music in a very serious way. And he thought it was tremendous. And I desperately wanted to like it. And what I saw was a low-rent Beatles and lyrics that didn't make sense. So I'm going to go and give this the same degree of analysis of some of those great albums that I loved, that when we went and reviewed them were a disappointment to both of us. So
excellent. Let's do it. I was kind of into other music at the time. I was aware of this massive thing that was I bought a copy, I listened to it. I'm looking at it now because I forgot the track list, and there are tracks on there that I think are great, but I'm going to listen to it as a piece and dissect it the way that you've done with this and give it a good one.
Well, as am I, because I've not listened to it for 25 years.
Well, this will be interesting because we'll both be coming at this from a non-fan perspective. I'm
Yeah.
not an Oasis fan, but I'm not an Oasis hater. They've got some songs that I think are terrific, but I don't know if I'd go and see them.
No. Well, I would go and see Liam Gallagher in order to leap up on stage and punch him in the face.
Right. Okay. So we're starting from a fairly low base on this one.
I've met Noel Gallagher once, albeit in the street. I was just off Oxford Street, and he was sitting outside a cafe, and I said, "Hi, Noel," and he went, "All right,"
mate.
And that was about the size of it. But I have no problem with him. But Liam is.
Let's do it. Let's do it. What's the story? Morning Glory. Let's get inside it. Some great tracks on there. I'm just looking at that are terrific. Some other ones that I don't know so well. So let's do it. Are we doing the? Yeah, it goes all the way through to Champagne Supernova, track 12. 12 tracks. Let's do it.
Lovely. So see you all next week. Thank you so much for coming, everyone. Thank you all for your lovely feedback. And I'm a Muse fan now, so thank you.